So in terms of looking at why would somebody need an alarm, initially I suppose we're looking at the reasons why. There's a risk of premature death, risk of injury, potential stress and anxiety amongst family members, and also the effect that it has on families about leaving people on their own, fear of leaving somebody unsupervised. So we looked at who potentially would be eligible for an alarm, and anyone with epilepsy can benefit from alarms, but especially those who live alone, who parent alone, people with sleep seizures, suspected undetected seizures, uncontrolled tonic-clonic seizures, prolonged seizures, and those with histories of injuries, or those who wish to live independently. Now, this is quite a wordy slide, but it just covers which type of alarms you should consider, and not all alarms are the same. It's important to acknowledge that. A bed alarm can detect seizures in bed, but a separate alarm is needed for someone during the daytime for their waking and daytime seizures. And you need to consider the following issues in relation to what you need to think about when you do decide to choose an alarm. What are the specific features that the alarm needs to detect in relation to moving, and that will depend on the person's seizure type. Will the alarm work if the person gets no warning? Where is it needed? Is it at home, out and about, or in bed? When it's needed? Is the alarm to be worn, or is it portable, or is it in a fixed place? How many metres is the range of the detection? Will the alarm need to have GPS? Does it need an auto dial for helping? Is there monitoring required? And if there's a mobile app to support the alarm, and it's all about the apps these days by the sounds of things. So the types of alarms devices, they're just highlighted there. I'm not going to go into the others because there is quite a lot to go through. So you can see there's fall detectors, bed and sleep alarms, chair bed occupancy alarms, door sensors, wandering alarms, auto dialers, pendant alarms, smartwatches and monitoring. And what we're going to look at primarily today are the bed alarms and the watches and the monitoring type of services that are available. So we looked at the research, and I suppose the gold standard in terms of looking at what alarms are the best to use. The main objective of finding that is trialling an alarm system in a video EEG monitoring unit where it's very controlled and you can see the person. It's very safe as well, so if people have prolonged seizures, they can be intervention can happen much more quickly, and it's a very controlled environment. So that would be ideal. Unfortunately, we all know the demands that are on video EEG beds. So to take on another project on top of that is often quite difficult. So it's not. There aren't a huge amount of studies, unfortunately, in the area, and to look at which alarm is more effective than the other. There's no data really or research to compare all the available alarms out on the market at the moment, because of the gold standard of EEG is not so readily available. And seizure detection rates can vary quite highly between these devices, and companies should be able to supply data from their own studies in relation to the devices. Now, as I said, some companies have done some studies and others are untrialed. Okay, so looking at the research that was out there, there was a study by Fulton in 2013 which looked at the mattress bed type monitor, which was attached to an external monitor, and they looked at 45 children over 2 years period, which it was done in a hospital setting with the video EEG and cardiopulmonary nurse monitoring, and they had 78 seizures captured by EEG in 45 patients. And the monitor captured 30% of all seizure events, which isn't a very high statistic, and 54% of the events were while sleeping, and 85% of the general tonic-clonic seizures were while sleeping. But the alarm was not sensitive enough to the seizures with no rhythmical movement, so very specific movement required in relation to that type of alarm. I think I went ahead there. This is another Fulton 2013 study again, which compared two different types of two models of a bed type of monitor again, and it was in 15 children with various seizure types, and then again it had the same level of monitoring in an EEG video EEG environment, and 15 patients, 69 seizures were recorded by video EEG. One model, the ST2, did not detect any nocturnal seizures, and the MP5 alarm detected 1 in 15 of sleeping patients. So the seizures alarms did not appear to be adequately detecting nocturnal seizures. Carlson et al. Had a study then in 2009 which looked at adults or patients between 13 and 65 years of age, with 65 subjects enrolled, and 5 out of the 8 tonic-clonic seizures were detected. But there were 269 false positive alarms, and which this highlighted the need for being a lot more specific in relation to the calibration, because that would probably make you want to turn off the alarm with that amount of there was a study into a wrist detector by Benzicki, I think if I say it right, et al. In 2013, which looked at generalised tonic-clonic seizures. 73 patients were enrolled and admitted for video EEG across 3 centres. 39 tonic-clonic seizures were recorded in 20 patients, and the device detected 35 seizures, which was 89%, which is a high percentage. In 16 patients, all seizures were detected, and in 3 patients, more than 2/3 of their seizures were detected, which showed the mean sensitivity for each patient was around 91%, which was a very positive result. The rate of false alarms was relatively low, 0.2 per day, but they felt the overall feeling was that a larger study was needed in relation to this type of device. There was some Irish research as well in the area. There was a qualitative study done by Insight with Fold and Brainwave back in 2008 with Tunstall alarms, and alarms were given to families over a period of 18 months. The profile of the patients were 5 patients with epilepsy living alone, 8 with children, 16 had epilepsy for more than 6 years, and 9 had simple partial seizures with an aura. It looked at detection of generalised tonic-clonic seizures and partial seizures, and everyone used a bed sensor as well. Fewer had the full detectors or the radio triggers. Probably at the time of the study it wasn't as readily available. This is what the qualitative results in relation to that study, and it was really about how people felt about the devices more so than their efficacy. 82% felt it had a positive effect. 53% had an improved life improvement due to the device. 74% felt home life had improved. 90% were happy with the monitoring service. 91% found monitoring response was very fast. 93% of adult users felt safer, and 86% of parents felt children could live more independently. So they're all very positive and high percentage results. The feedback from the families, it's with the pros there on the left, about the degree of reassurance, the family benefit from improved sleep and well-being. You can imagine, I'm sure, there's a lot of time, a lot of room sharing goes on at the initial stages, and it's trying to encourage independence for children at home. The record of seizures detected and types was very accurate, and if you could have, it could have saved them from status epilepticus, what one individual had said. The cons, I suppose, are the sensitivity of the device. It was too easy to set off a false alarm, which was, as we've seen, is an issue from previous studies, and the difficulty to adjust the sensitivity even for the technician. So that's not an readily thing to do, and also the discomfort and stigma of wearing the alarms. This brings us on, I suppose, to the more, we'll see as we go on, the more evolved alarms that have come out now. I suppose back to basics, Sinead has mentioned baby monitors, and people use baby monitors as maybe their first port of call before they, I suppose, research further into the area of alarms, because they're readily available. You can pick them up in Argos or any of your electrical stores, and they range in their I suppose, level of price. As you can see, you can have very basic ones with just audio, and then you can have your top of the range with video monitors as well. Most of them would have audio mainly, but you'd still have to get out and check. They're not seizure specific. They rely on noise, not movement. They can be intrusive, and they may, especially if there's a video involved. There's very little independence in your own bedroom. You can imagine as a teenager you might be very upset with that. And not all abnormal movements are also accompanied by sound. So that's your very basic, but often it's a good starter for people if they're very anxious at that initial stage of going home. It might be something they want to consider. The Fold Telecare model is a lifeline. I think this is a VI and the unit. So it's as you can see, it's a mattress sensor, and it comes with a unit, and it also comes with a fall detector. And this is available on a rental scheme. I suppose the difficulty is not portable, so you can't bring it with you, or if you move around, you have to have a phone line in the house, and incontinence can also cause a problem sometimes. This one is in, but it's primarily more for residential care facilities, so not for everyday use. It's for, obviously, for people with nursing homes and things like that, where there's lots of people you can monitor over a period of time, and it sends messages back to the nursing station, and it can hold up to 32 clients on that. Now, this one most of you might be familiar with or seen before is the EpiCare Watch and Mobile. So it detects tonic-clonic seizures. It links with an EpiCare app. It's compatible with Android phones only. It phones or has a text alert in relation once the seizure is detected. It also detects low battery, and you charge it once a day. It has a seizure log, and it's available for children over 8 years of age and adults. And it's in and around market price is €1,200. Okay, the SAMI device is another type of device that's available out there. This is a sleep activity monitor. It has audio and visual information from a remote infrared camera, which is sent to an app, and it runs on an iOS device. So it's you have to have a certain level of iPhone only Apple device in order to use it. You can set the parameters. You can get it to look at certain specifics. It then, judging on the parameters that you set, you review the events in the morning, and it summarises highlights the events for you, rather than having to watch the whole thing. It has a video and a seizure log and an alarm, but it doesn't ring out. It doesn't alert someone else if there's a seizure happening. It literally will just sound, but it won't phone anyone. Now, the price is in dollars there, and it ranges from $399 or up to $1,000, because if you have to buy an Apple device in order to accompany it, that's what makes it a higher price. This is one of the more recent ones that's just out, the Pebble Watch. So the Pebble Watch was developed by a gentleman whose wife had epilepsy. She had well-controlled seizures for up to 14 years, and then had a sudden seizure, and he is a games developer, and he took a week off work seemingly and developed this, which is a great week off, probably changed his life forever. But it is it's a seizure detect app, and it works. So Pebble watches are your basic smartwatch that are readily available. They're $100. So he decided to go with something that wasn't going to cost an enormous amount, and he has worked very closely with Pebble watch company in relation to this. Apple's iPhone is Bluetooth. It should also work with the Android phones, and it's downloadable, so that it's free to download the connection, and then you can buy the Pebble watch, and it's available in Ireland now from Curry's, PC World, Harvey Norman's and Littlewoods. This is another one that we are commonly seeing now. It's the Epilepsy smartwatch. The cost is in around €600. It has a different mode of action. It has onset. It detects the onset of repetitive shaking movements for tonic-clonic seizures. It's Android compatible only. It can be used for children and adults, and it's available from Irish Health Services Limited. Now, the tap-to-tag is not a monitoring alarm. It is just an identity tag. So it's different in comparison to that, but it is a silicone wristband with a fob in it. It's free for all new Epilepsy Ireland members. It costs around €25. And it uploads your personal information. When you're found somewhere, people can swipe their smartphone over it, and it'll send a text message to their phone telling them a personal recorded or whatever message you've decided to put on it. So, for example, some people have this. If you don't have a smartphone and you come across somebody who's had a seizure, there is also written information on the device as well, so it's got a backup from that point of view. So looking at the apps, I suppose, as we said, they are very much the future of how information is delivered. There's many choices out there, and many of them have similar features. I suppose in relation to the Epilepsy Ireland app, which Peter had spoken about earlier on, the first version came out in March 2015, and initially it was Android available. Android version was only, and as of today it's available for iPhone, which he already mentioned. Its main feature is an e-diary. It records triggers for provoking factors for seizures. It allows quick access to the phone's camera if somebody wanted to record the seizure. It's email friendly in relation to the seizure log. You can share the information with caregivers. Emergency SMS feature is also there, and there's an instruction, very easy to use guide on the website. So that's the sort of homepage if you were to go on to purchase it. And the second version is due to come out hopefully soon. And that will be obviously for both Android and iPhone. And it's got some extra measures that are going to be included with medication reminder, side effects recording, tracking missed medications, buccal midazolam use can be recorded, appointment planning can be used, and hopefully there'll be a potential link to use it with the electronic patient record. So in relation to funding for these alarms, there's no one guaranteed mechanism, unfortunately. People can apply for funding. Approval by the HSE, you have to have your medical letter outlining the need for it on safety grounds. The HSE don't tend to fund rental schemes, so they will, if you do get approved for funding, it's usually for a one-off cost, so a device, but not generally something that you'll rent on a regular basis, and they don't often commit to monitoring. So that can be influential as well, I suppose, in deciding which alarm you may go for. The applications can be also made through disability managers. The long-term illness scheme is another way, can cover some equipment and connected to illness. And I do know Geraldine has informed me that one lady did get her alarm prescribed. It was not an easy battle, and I wouldn't say it's probably going to be standard for everyone. So don't rush out there tomorrow and get onto the long-term illness scheme, but it has happened. She may have set a precedent. The cost varies, and it may be allowable to, if you decide to pay for it yourself, you may be able to get refunded on the Med1 tax relief. This is just another thing that Sinead had added in, I suppose, to move away from the technology side, but there are other things that people are looking into in relation to alarms, and that's a very big dog. But you know, we were looking a lot about dogs and their response to people with seizures, and I suppose the pros are that they can often help somebody if they find them in a seizure. They can put them in a safe position. They can alert somebody else. They can try and arouse them to wake up, and they can carry information for that person in relation to what their condition is. They're not readily available, although I have been told by Geraldine that's many inquiries coming her way in relation to dogs. And there is a long waiting list in the UK in relation to that service as well. So to conclude, video EEG remains the gold standard in relation to, I suppose there's a lot more work to do there in relation to getting a good idea of how these devices vary against each other. And I think really the thing is that these devices there's probably a new one going to come out in the market every few months, so it's going to be really impossible to try and spend time to do it. But alarm does give reassurance, and that is often very priceless for people in terms of living an independent life. Funding can cost, varying from your €100 for your Pebble watch up to 1,200, depending on the type of alarm that you would like. And some companies will offer payment plans, as we've seen there, and rental options. The HSE funding is assessed on a case-by-case basis, and there is a really good fact sheet on the Epilepsy Ireland website that covers all of this, and it has all the links as well. The last slide does have all the email links, but if you go to the Epilepsy website and you look at the alarm leaflet, it has all of those there as well. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Yvonne. That was fantastic. Questions for Yvonne?
Do you think that a lot of those alarms be more based towards tonic-clonic stages rather than likes of complex partial, or
yeah, they are.
More?
They I should have mentioned that, but the wrist alarms and the watches are all